Welcome back to the DGD Podcast. You know who it is. We got our friend Jake Crane from Crane and Company back on the show. Back on the show, guys. We're going to talk some Tennessee football. Simple as that. Jake, first off, how are you, my man?
Man, doing good. Just getting ready for the show today. Got Barrett Sally on, so going to be talking a lot of college football as we enter August, which means it's here. Basically, I can't wait.
Oh yeah. Now I know sitting here looking at August 1st, there's actual college football being played today. Simple enough.
Yeah, look, I'm
Simple
as
enough.
excited as anybody.
I was sitting there thinking about it too. Like obviously we start our season off in September, but if you're not a casual, you're going to watch week 0, and that's going to be interesting. I went on a Reynolds rant, if you will. I'm tired of the hypothetical bullshit talking. Right, I'm tired of talking season. What I mean, what are you hear it right? You know what I'm talking about. Texas
Yeah,
fans being, Texas being back. Miami fans with crystal balls are going to be the next national champions. I'm just ready for football at this point.
yeah. I think we all are. The talking stuff gets us through it, and obviously recruiting and now the transfer portal. I will say though, why do we call it week 0? Like what? It's like I don't understand. It's like patient 0. It's like no, that was the first person. Like it's the first week where we're playing college football. Like that, I don't understand why we call it week 0. It's like pre-boarding for the plane. No, you're not pre-board. You're just the first people to board. Like I don't know why we do this mental gymnastics. Like it's week 1. It's the first week, but that's neither here nor there. That's for me and my own thoughts, I
That,
guess.
that's that's a definite Jake take that I'm on board with. Period.
Yeah, I
Period.
just don't get it. Patient 0. So what? It's a ghost. Like I don't. Where is it? Like patient 0. Like show me who that is. If it's the first person, then okay, that's the first patient. I'm not understanding why we do this.
I don't either, but I just know what comes with week 0, and that's
Yeah.
college football. That's college football. I don't care. I don't care. It's just football, unless you have to watch Vanderbilt and Hawaii play. Then is that football? I don't know.
Well, now we can start talking maybe about week 0 a little bit, maybe about ghosts when it comes to Vanderbilt. I mean, they couldn't even win their spring game, so at this point, and I will give them credit. The old adage, work smarter, not harder. I mean, that's Vanderbilt and the SEC for you.
Completely agree. All right, folks, we're done talking about. We can bash Vanderbilt another day. Jake, let's talk Tennessee.
Mm,
Tennessee, good topic right there, right?
yeah,
So first off, we'll go ahead and dive straight into this. I'm ready for the brigade to come in on this one. First off, first things first, we're gonna pull up the schedule. We're gonna break it down half and half. So first off, Tennessee, play Ball State, then they go to Pitt, then they have Akron and Florida. They host Akron and Florida. Then they go to a trip down to the Bayou, right? Good T-Bob down there, and then they host Alabama, right? So your first 6 games, right? I'm looking at this right here. I want to get your thoughts on this first, and then I'll elaborate a little bit further. I think they can start off not as hot as people were expecting them to be. I'll just leave it at that, but I'm gonna let you elaborate a little bit.
yeah. I've got Tennessee finishing second in the East, going 5-3. I think that first 6 game slate. I think they're going to go 4-2. You go to LSU with Brian Kelly and them humming down there. They're always going to have a good roster. Here's my thing on Tennessee. I love that they returned Hendon Hooker. I know they lost Vilas to the draft, but they have some talented players there. Brew McCoy, I can go down the list. But when you run that style, what I am probably looking at the most when I look at Tennessee this year is, are they going to go the speed limit a little bit more? Because I just don't believe operating at that pace you can win the East right now with Georgia in it, or that you can beat Alabama, or you can win the games down the stretch that you have to win against those type teams to be able to win a national championship, which is what Tennessee fans want. We know the standard at Tennessee, what they believe they're capable of. But when you go that fast, it's nice to be able to go out. Oh, you scored in 3 plays, and then you went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Oh, and you scored in 4 plays. Well, that's all great, but that means that the offense has been out there for less than 20 plays, which means the defense that still doesn't have the depth it needs, in my opinion, yet to be an elite defense. I think Tennessee fans will agree with me. That puts a ton of pressure on a defense. And balanced teams win national championships. I'm not saying you have to be 50-50. Nobody's really 50-50. But there are some games, there are those 2 or 3 games a season where the offense isn't clicking. I don't care what style of offense you run, and you score 24 points or 27 points or 21 points, and you need that defense to save you. We've seen it with the best Alabama teams. We've seen it with the Georgia teams. We've seen it with Ohio State teams that win the Natty. I don't feel like you can trick your way to a national championship. And when you go that fast, I would hate as a DC to walk in there and be like, guys, if we can just give up 35 this week. I don't like that mindset. I think it's tough. I'm not saying you can't win 9 games. I'm not saying you can't screw out and win 10 games, but you're not going to win the SEC and you're not going to win the national championship. I think we saw Mike Leach come in running the air raid, right? Let's go fast. Let's go fast. He comes to the SEC and says, wait a minute. We have to start slowing down. Lane Kiffin, let's go fast. Let's go fast. Let's go fast. Comes to the SEC. We need to start going the speed limit more. Gus Malzahn, who basically invented the hurry up, no huddle, got slower and slower and slower and slower because it's not sustainable. And you're in year 2 now. The book's out on you. Not that Josh and them won't keep evolving and adding wrinkles and all this stuff, but it's like a lot of you see these young pitchers, these rookies come up in the major leagues, and you're like, man, your first 3 outings, you're looking fantastic. We're like, we got the next Cy Young. Then all of a sudden, outing 4, 5, and 6, you start getting hit around a little bit. Why? Because the book's out on you. And it's one thing to go watch film and say, all right, well, UCF did this under Josh Heupel. And then it's another thing to be calling the defense against it live. You get a better feel for it. You kind of understand more on the fly what's going on. So I would not be shocked if you saw Tennessee early in the game, go a little bit slower to let that defense rest.
You have to, because the crazy stat of the year last year was the Kentucky game. They won, but your defense played 99 snaps and won, right? To me, obviously, like you said, it's a matter of sustainability, and that's not sustainable because they got wrecked by Georgia.
Yeah, well, think about it. All right, you go play 99 plays against Kentucky. Who you got next? LSU? Like Bama? Georgia? Florida? Like, you can't, it's not sustainable. Going through the SEC is a battle of attrition. It is not how good your starting 22 is. It's how good is your first 60. That's what it is. It's my best 60 versus your best 60. And I just feel like when you operate like that, you have to thread the needle even more.
Yeah, sorry about that. But no, I think
You're good.
I think when you look at the how they handle things, right? It's kind of expected for year 1, right? But I think the key for me is to how do they handle it in year 2, because you have to make changes. It's a copycat league, but it's also a team, or it's also a league where people adapt and will scheme against it. And when you have guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, because hey, Tennessee plays these guys, every year, right? I think that's a key there, in my opinion, that they have to adapt. But going back to the graphic here first, pulling it back up, I see 4-2. I think. No, actually, no. I'll go 5-1. I'll go 5-1. And I know your thoughts on LSU. I think LSU is going to be dangerous. But I'm curious to see year 1 under Brian Kelly. How do they handle things? Right? How do they handle, obviously, the coaching, the culture change, the coaching change, right? I think it's going to be a damn good game, but let's be honest, Alabama's going to rout Tennessee, but I'm going to give them benefit of doubt and go 5-1 with the surprise probably being at LSU. If you're looking at these first 6 games, Jake, what is your take for these for the record coming out of the Alabama game?
Yeah, I think after Bama, they're going to be 4-2. Pitt losing Kenny Pickett and then Jordan Addison. While I think they're still going to be formidable, Narduzzi and them have an identity. They know what they want to do. I think Tennessee just has too much. I think they have too much firepower on offense. And look, you go to LSU, then you get Bama. I got them going 5-3. Like I said, I think they lose LSU, Bama, and Georgia. I think those are the three. Which, I mean, outside of that, I mean, you go 9-3, year 2 at Tennessee, get to play in a pretty good bowl game. Now the NCAA stuff is out. So that dark cloud is kind of not hanging over their head. I don't think they're going to get hit really hard because of all the legwork, because of firing Jeremy Pruitt and stuff like that. And they fired him with cause. Go 9-3 this year with getting that cloud out from over your head. You got to feel really strong, even though you're losing Hendon Hooker going into that next year, because Heupel's going to be able to coach quarterbacks. We've watched him. He understands how to do it. And that whole system going fast like that is based on the idea of catching the defense in base. Because if I catch you in base more times than not, I make it harder for you to make checks because we're going so fast. But when I catch you in base, not only do I know what your base is, I most likely know what your checks is to trips out of that base coverage, to quads out of that base, to 12 personnel, 13 personnel, heavy checks, condensed formation, FIB, which is formation into the boundary, stuff like that. So that's why you do it. It's addition by subtraction. It's basically oversimplifying it with speed. So there are going to be some wrinkles you see defensively, but it's still going to catch you. It's still going to catch teams that don't have depth, but it's just how much are you going to be able to get away with it? So I look at that schedule, and I legitimately see 9-3. And like I said, if they go 9-3, year 2, under Heupel, with the NCAA cloud lifted, there's going to be a lot of optimism in Tennessee, which you're going to see in recruiting, because they are very, very influential on social media as a fan base when it comes to recruiting. They're some of the best at it.
I'm with you there. And as I'll go back. I forgot about this. So like I said, I've got them losing to Alabama, but it's called me crazy. I think Kentucky handles them this season. So
I'm telling you right now, I like Will Levis and I like C-Rod, but losing Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't think enough people are talking about that.
Well, you also lose Darian Kennard. I think that's
you lose Kennard. You lose Kennard, and look, Kentucky just started throwing the forward pass last year after some time machine hiatus,
groundbreaking
with Eddie
moves.
Grand.
Yeah.
But Wan'Dale Robinson made Will Levis right a lot, especially down the field. I mean, Wan'Dale was so good at tracking the ball. I mean, how many catches did he make where he had to either stop, he had to come back, he had to turn over the opposite shoulder, he had to absolutely run one down like an outfielder knowing where to go. I think that loss is going to hurt him. And I love that the way Mark Stoops has built Kentucky. All right, from the inside out. He gets it. And I'm the one who I'll sit here and still say it. Mark Stoops is the best coach in Lexington, and I don't even think it's close. So I like Kentucky. I like what they're building. I like what they've built. But I think Tennessee getting them at home with, coming off losses to, in my opinion, at LSU, then Bama, then I think you get a reprieve, then Kentucky. That's going to be a big one that they have to have. And when you're projecting, outcomes or doing predictions for seasons, you have got to look at those stretches of 3 to 4 games, 4 to 5 games without a bye week, because that is where the slip-ups happen. That is where you see it. So, like, looking at the schedule right now, you've got LSU on the 8th, Bama on the 15th, UT Martin on the 22nd, Kentucky on the 29th, Georgia on November the 5th. I mean, it's brutal. If you look at it, I mean, their bye week, when you really chop it down, I mean, you've got one in between Florida and LSU. I mean, that's really the main one you're hoping to lean back on. So that's going to try and catapult you into LSU and Bama. Then by the time you hit October 29th, that's 4 straight games. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, sitting here looking at it, though, too, right? I think, the timing of the bye week for them is rough. And, you look at, obviously UT Martin comes in after Bama. But when you play Bama, and they're used to it every year, it's one of those things where you don't really get back to normal, if you will, what you were before they come out of that game. Then you sit there, like you said, Kentucky is a physical team, and I like what Stoops is doing there. Obviously, like I think that Kentucky might surprise them. I just think that Tennessee might slip up and lose a game that they might not be expected to lose.
Oh, they definitely could. I mean, again, if that offense goes 3 and out 5 times in a row, you're in trouble. Like you're in legitimate trouble for the rest of the game. I just think that Kentucky game is going to be a must-win game for them at home. I think that's going to be the one that catapults them through the back half, because the back half of that schedule outside of Georgia really isn't super difficult compared to the front end.
For what it's worth,
for what it's worth. Yeah. If they're able to get through that first stretch and get that win over Kentucky, because I believe LSU, so that would put them at, they'd be 1-2 in the SEC going into that Kentucky game. And that'd be a must-win for them to get to 2-2. Then you lose to Georgia, go 2-3, win the rest of your SEC games. The last three end up going 5-2 or 5-3. Excuse
me. Oh, Kentucky and Tennessee, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so Kentucky and Tennessee. I think they're going to play for second in the East. I think Florida is not there just yet in year one, right? In year one, I just don't know if they're ready for that. But 9-3 is a damn good year two for what it's worth.
Agreed.
Do what?
I said I agree with you. I think it's going to be between Tennessee and Kentucky for second in the East. Like I said, Billy just needs time with that roster. As crazy as it sounds to think that Florida doesn't have a good roster with all that talent, I think Billy's going to need some time. It's just the truth.
So I'm sitting here looking at it right after Georgia, right? They come to Stanford, and that's where I think that Georgia's fortunate here from a standpoint where, listen, you have Hendon Hooker there, and I think Hendon Hooker is going to be a damn good quarterback this year, just the same as he was last season. But when you look at the Georgia game, then you got Missouri, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, right? Those are three easy wins, right? So do you have Tennessee finishing second, or you have them second, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
second. Yeah, I got them second. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think you have them second as well. And I think South Carolina at Willie B toward the end of the season is going to be interesting. And I know, how can I explain this? From a standpoint of, from that standpoint where, South Carolina, Spencer Rattler and stuff, there's a lot of people that have mixed feelings about that. But I think that can be an interesting game. I think Tennessee wins, but I think it's an interesting game. But I do have a question from the brigade here, and I'm going to pull it up here. You're a betting man. Can we get an over-under on mustard bottles thrown, and what about golf balls? We need answers. I would assume the number's probably 3.
I'm gonna take the under. That was such a crazy situation, and there's no excuse. And I don't think that represents, the Tennessee fan base as a whole, just like I don't think Harvey Updike represents the Alabama fan base as a whole. So I'm going to take the under. It was such an embarrassing thing last year. I know Lane Kiffin upset you. I know he pissed you off. But you're throwing golf balls, from stadium seats. I'm going to take the under. I think that was such a bad look last year. And I think that type of stuff hurts you in recruiting. I think it does. I think you're able to play back and say, look, look how these people act.
Well, my thing is, I don't even think the question is over under. My question is, how did you have a golf ball in the stadium when you're going to watch a football game? Like, that
was your lucky golf ball that wasn't. Yeah, like that was your lucky golf ball that wasn't lucky anymore, or you brought it in to legitimately throw at Lane Kiffin. Those two things are different, but at the end of the day, you still threw a golf ball, man. Like that could really legitimately hurt somebody. And I'm all for booing. I used to love playing on the road. I love when people yell profanities at me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm weird like that, but at the end of the day, you start doing physical things. That's a totally different realm.
No, absolutely. I'm sitting here looking at it, right? It's one of those things where you watch the game, and I understand how big of a game that was, right? The emotions were already high because of Tennessee and what Kiffin did there. Like, let's be honest, he was younger, but definitely handled it the wrong way, in my opinion. But when the officiating, if I'm not mistaken, the backstory to that, the officiating made a rough call that didn't go their way, and it cost them the game. But there's no excuse regardless. Like, you don't.
Yeah, like what is it going to do? All of a sudden, you're going to hit them with a golf ball, and the referee's going to go, "Wait, we were wrong. We were wrong. They're throwing golf balls. Let's redo the play." Like that. You're just adding insult to injury.
Yeah, so as our friend here, 63 to 30 says, Kiffin even used the same golf ball at the Ole Miss baseball game as the first pitch, and he said it was epic. Dude, this just goes to tell you that the best troll, right? The best troll has to be Lane Kiffin, man. Like the dude just lets it go. It's just
Yeah.
beautiful. It's poetic, right? It's poetic. Speaking of trolls, listen, I'm from North Carolina and had a recent commit, Jamal Jarrett. Did you see his commitment video?
Yeah, the one where he made it look like he was going to North Carolina and then did the Georgia thing.
Yeah, I think without doing
Yeah,
a hat toss, that was beautiful. What?
yeah, I just maybe I'm old school and look, he's put himself in a position to be able to make that. I just don't think it's a good look. Like if I'm looking, as every one of these kids thinks they're going to the NFL, their family thinks they're going to the NFL. So if I'm looking forward that far, I am going to be the most professional business type person you have ever seen. I don't want them to be able to come back because they look at everything. They go and ask the cafeteria lady from middle school, your preschool teacher, how good your mom did in Lama's class when she was pregnant with you. They go all the way back. So I don't want to give them any ammunition to be like, well, this guy, his attitude, maybe something like that. But again, they're kids. They've given themselves, he's worked hard enough to put himself in that position. It's his choice to make, but it's also my right to not think it's a good look.
There you go. Now, I do want to ask you this, right? We've talked Tennessee. We've got them going about 9-3, right? I would say 9-3, both on just different ways to get there. Second in the East, like I said, Tennessee is going to do a lot. We've talked about some names. Obviously they lose Velus Jones, which Velus Jones last year torched Georgia. Right? So if you're not familiar, Georgia fans, remember that name. But he is now gone. Are there some names to know in your opinion, right? I think outside of the obvious in Hendon Hooker, right? Do you have any names that maybe Georgia fans should keep an eye out for when we play them in Sanford?
Well, you know what? A lot of people would go receiver and running back and stuff. I'm interested to see the offensive line. That they're returning some guys. There's, Cade Mays is gone. A couple of those other guys is gone. They kind of did the Cupid shuffle a little bit up front. But regardless of what system you run, having an offensive line that is somewhat veteran, knows what to expect. They've been able to tag blitzes. They can slide protect. Because if you watch the way that Tennessee operates in the run game, that takes a lot of toll on the offensive line. So we talk about depth up front. When you're operating that fast and going that fast, yes, you work on it in practice. Yes, you have scrimmages. Yes, you do the weightlifting and the winter workouts. But it's tough to recreate how tough that is on an offensive lineman going all the way down the field. It's hard on defensive linemen, but those offensive linemen aren't little either. So the replacements up front for Tennessee, to me, are going to dictate how far they go. Because when you got to be able to line up and run the ball in 3rd and 1. You got to be able to line up and get 3rd and 2 and not have to sit here and play action and dink and duck and do all these crazy things. So you'll hear about names at receiver and playmakers down the field and running backs that can break long runs. But to me, I'm looking at that Tennessee offensive line because I know Josh Heupel and them are looking at that Tennessee offensive line.
No doubt. So I want to ask you one more question. If we had to go on a way too early, what do you think the score prediction would be for Tennessee, Georgia?
Oh man,
it's gonna be tough.
I would say Georgia. Give me Georgia 38-27.
It's respectable. I think a lot of people sleep on Georgia's offense, man. Like I understand people hate Stetson, I get it, but at the same time, like he was efficient, and that can be the key.
Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I don't get that. Number one, if you're a Georgia fan, I would be thanking God every day for Stetson Bennett because it wasn't Matt Stafford who had A.J. Green. It wasn't Aaron Murray. He was the quarterback on the team that won the Natty. And I don't think Stetson gets enough credit. I watched Stetson bring y'all back in the Natty against Bama. So, like, people need to start putting some respect on Stetson Bennett's name. Like, they act like he's just this slapdick that's just out there handing the ball off. I'd take Stetson Bennett over Blake Sims. I'd take Stetson Bennett over Jake Coker. I'd take, like, Stetson Bennett, number one, runs 4.5, which people don't realize how fast that is. He controls the game. And Yeah, the term game manager is the worst term in sports. If I have a quarterback that is not a game manager, I don't care if it's Lamar Jackson or Stetson Bennett. We are screwed on every different level. Half a quarterback's job is to manage the game. That term sucks. We need to stop using it because it's misleading, in my opinion. So when you look at Stetson Bennett, I would be a lot more thankful, honestly, to have Stetson Bennett than I think a lot of Georgia fans are, because if they do win it this year, which I don't think they're going to, then he is the great. You can make an argument he's the greatest quarterback of all time at Georgia, and people will freak out about that. But give me the guy that wins the Natty. You can have everybody else.
No, it's at this point, like he proved me wrong, right? I'll go, like I said, I'll admit it. He proved me wrong. I thought it was JT that was going to do it. Obviously, that didn't happen. But like I said, I got to take it for what it's worth. But now I'm sold on it, right? Like, come on, he proved everybody like he should have. But I do have a question from you here as well.
Again, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So Patrick asks, do you see an SEC championship within the next 5 years in Knoxville?
If they start going the speed limit more, yes. I think there's a very good possibility with the cachet that Tennessee has, with their ability to recruit. If they keep operating at warp speed all the time outside of when they're trying to control the clock at the end, I don't think they're going to get over that hump, because it's not like teams are getting worse. South Carolina's not getting worse. Kentucky's not getting worse. Florida's going to be better than what they have because of the roster. But until Tennessee goes the speed limit, at least some, I don't think they can string enough big wins together against the elite teams to be able to make that step. But I think Josh will. I think he'll start going the speed limit more.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to. I think that's the only way to win consistently is to do that, because you look at Georgia. I'm gonna take Georgia as an example. Obviously, we're a Georgia show. Even with Georgia's depth, if our offense played that fast, even as how much we rotate, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. Like, it would help, but it wouldn't matter.
I agree.
So, and that's what I'm thinking. For me, I think this is what's going to make it interesting is, we play, they play us, like, we'll even pull the graphic back up, right? So you're looking into you're looking at 8 games in, 9 weeks in before you play Georgia, right? Now, yeah, they come to Sanford, but there's a lot of time to get those kinks squared away, right? Like, figure out, trying to adjust the level, right? The level, speed, all this stuff. I think they have to do that, right? I still think the recipe of body against body, though, is what's going to be the detriment to Tennessee against Georgia, because, outside of Alabama, on our schedule, because I'm just going ahead and chalking us into Atlanta, maybe Oregon, but not even. Like, the depth and the bodies, nobody matches up. And that's where last year, right, you rode the wave, right? Yeah, they threw up 17 points on you, but at the same time, you just stopped them on defense, couple 3-and-outs, and your efficiency on offense took over, because they didn't have they didn't have the bodies. So I think it plays again this year, but I think it's going to be a better game. I don't know if it's going to be a huge blowout, right? Like, or anything like that. And I'm going to hold off on my prediction until the week of. This is how I roll. But I do think you're going to see Heupel try to, throughout the season, manage the speed. If you don't try to manage it, it's not going to be pretty. Because, like I said, like we LSU, you go to LSU, then you play Bama. First off, that 2-game slate right there is enough for anybody to have problems with. Like, let's just be honest. Like,
for sure.
Tell Texas,
again, and you got to hope you stay somewhat healthy by the time you get to Georgia.
Because this. You've been down to Louisiana. Go a night game at LSU. First off, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's just a different environment. Like, not even just
any person that can start drinking hard liquor at 7 a.m. and still be able to function by a late night kick scares me.
And the thing about it is they're not taking breaks or trying to manage it. They just go.
No, it's hydrating.
Yeah, let's drink water, go Tigers. Like, that's how we roll down there. It sounds like, but no, I think it'll be an interesting game though, right? I think, like I said, I hate to say this because I hate the Vols, I hate Orange, but I mean, I do think that they're going to be a threat in the East. How much of a threat is the question, right? I still think it's Georgia's to lose by far. I think you see them finish second in the East. I'm with that. Like, I think that's a fair
Yeah,
assessment,
it's
especially in
like
year
I said,
two.
man. Yeah, it's like I said, the only bigger threat in the East outside of Georgia and Tennessee right now is China. I mean, if you really look at it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Jake. So before we wrap this thing up, my man, tell us a little bit more about Crane and Company. I think the last time you were on, man, you were actually doing the J Boy show. That's
Yep.
throwback right there.
Yeah.
Tell
Yeah,
us folks
man.
a little
Well,
bit more about Crane and Company.
definitely, man. Well, we go live 2 to 3 Central every weekday. You can find us on YouTube. It's Crane and Company, CRANN Company. We're the sports show for the Daily Wire. Have been since January. Transitioned from the J Boy Show to Crane and Company. So now we talk NFL as well, which I've loved. We talk basically just college football when we were doing the J Boy Show. I mean, we've just had Brian Harson, Chris Doring, Cole Kubelik, Takeo Spikes, David Pollock. We got Barrett Salih coming on today. So, yeah, man, we have 3 people that talk. Basically, me, I coached for 9 years, 6 at the Division I level. David Cohn played quarterback at Michigan. My brother played at Western Colorado. So, no, it's been great, man. We're having a lot of fun, and it's football season. So we do bets as well. Shout out to the Booster Club. So, yeah, man, come check us out.
The Booster Club. Yes, the Booster Club.
You already know. Good friends of the brigade.
Yeah, you know what though? That's how we roll. But no,
sure.
So listen. So check them out. 3:00 YouTube, right? Check out. Listen, I need you to tell Cone. All right, I need you to tell Cone. I hope he didn't take that ass whipping personally.
Hey, look, listen. I will tell him. I will remind him of that every day because one thing I've learned from having a buddy that's a Michigan fan is there are Michigan fans absolutely everywhere.
They really, that's the crazy thing. There really are Michigan fans everywhere. It's weird. You don't expect it, but yeah, it's. But no, I think you probably heard it enough. Tell replacement Cone he needs to get a star for the show. By the way.
Yeah, we're thinking about maybe bringing him in, once a week. He doesn't have a lot to say, but when he does talk, everybody listens. It's a real Yoda situation.
Now, what about Baby Cone? I heard Baby Cone as well. That's where you get your picks and that's where you make your money.
Dude, bro, Baby Cone, we let Baby Cone pick 2 picks a day. If you don't know, he's a 10-month-old savant. He's the Rain Man of sports betting. I think overall right now he's like 73 and 52. So he's actually the one providing the income for the house right now at the Cone household from a betting standpoint. Yeah, we give Cone a little bit of trouble on that.
Do better, Cole. That's all I'm gonna say. And tell your brother Blaine, by the way, his beard game is on par, but it needs to be. He can do better.
Well, the stash right now, him and Peter Burns kind of had a stash off. He was really about it. And look, he looks good now. It does look like he's either he's a 70s lifeguard or he's gonna come and try and sell you a reverse mortgage. But other than that, it looks good.
I'm torn. I'm really torn. When I had long hair, it was the Jeremiah Johnson effect. But you got to keep this. Got to keep this thing clean. That's how it goes.
Got to keep it steady.
No doubt. Hey man, look, thanks again for coming on. I think it was good to have that insight on Tennessee and everything. Listen, if you're listening, if you're watching, go follow Jake, Blaine, Adam, the guys over at Crane and Company. Even go follow Replacement Cone. And he's got his own Twitter account. He should be verified here in the next week or so, but we'll see.
He should be, or else Flamin' Dragon's going to burn down the whole set on Friday. So we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. Get Ben on there to make it happen.
Appreciate it, bro.
Absolutely, guys. With that being said, have a great one, Jake. And for the rest of the brigade, have a great day. We'll catch you back Friday, and go Dogs.